Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
All right, thanks again, Sean, for leading us in. I'm Ed Sales with
Austin Kopte,
and we are back with another fun podcast. We have a lot of exciting topics today. We have a couple of questions to get to, and at the end, we're going to talk about a tournament we got coming up in our exciting list that we're going to be taking. This is going to be a thrilling podcast. You don't want to miss any of this. What do you think, Austin?
I'm excited. You basically told me earlier last week to pick my favorite command cards, and I have several that I love to run. I have several that people love to have me not run. So I can't wait to talk about that, and then get around to our how to assault Panzer Grenadiers with their half tracks, which is a very on topic question, especially because yesterday Battlefront just released their the unit attachment cards to upgrade your Panzer Grenadiers to actually have their half tracks. So it should be a pretty good podcast.
Yep, Austin was tasked with a full week to discover how he could pull off this assault against Panzer Grenadiers with half tracks and HMGs. I'm sure he has the answer, but first, we're going to talk about what are the best command cards. Now, for me, this is an easy choice, right? I'm going to pick the one card. For Germans, it's pure luck. It's you get for 1 point, you can reroll any one die, and I would easily take that with any nation, but that's too easy, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's too easy. You guys don't want to hear me say that. Hey, just for that 1 point, pick this one card for all your nations. That's all you need. No, you guys want to hear about other cards, and not only are we going to talk about that, we're going to talk about some of the worst command cards, some of the ones you should avoid, and why you should avoid them. Austin, what nation do you want to go with first?
I'm really torn because for command cards, I really think the Soviets just have so many good ones. But for my favorite command cards, I have to start with the Brits. They are near and dear to me, and one card in particular, and I'm holding 2 copies of it in my hand.
Two?
And yep, one of them, a friend of mine, who people know on the site as Matt Varnish, will be very happy to know I am taking a lighter, I am lighting it, and I am now burning my Desert Rats version of Scout Tanks.
What?
And it is sitting here, and I'm going to put this out now before I set off my fire alarm.
Oh, no.
However, in my right hand, I am holding the Armored Fist version of Scout Tanks. For 2 points per platoon, you can take any tank that has the Tally-Ho attribute from a Honey Armored Squadron or Crusader Armored Squadron, and they have a tactics rating of 4+, and are hit on a rating of 4+ as well. Their tactical speed is reduced to 12 centimeters for Crusaders and 10 for Honey Tanks, and you must take this card for all eligible units if you take it for any. You lose Tally-Ho, but you gain the Scout ability. Back when this was 1 point for your entire force, not formation, force, it was my favorite card, hands down, in the entire game. However, it has been hit with a Nerf bat, so it's a little expensive. I don't run it too often in competitive play right now because of the cost. However, if you're taking a single formation of Honeys or single formation of Crusaders, it's still a point effective card to get it done, because you're basically making your tanks now veteran, and you're losing Tally-Ho, which gives them that awful 5-up save. So for favorite card, that has to be it. And I'm going to point fingers at Matt Varnish here. We played a lovely game, and the tournament organizer gave me 115 points to field as many Honey Stewards as I could, and I did. I went to every player that plays Flames of War in the Hampton Roads area, and I got 64 Honey Stewards and made them all veteran, 4s to hit, or 5s to hit if I didn't shoot them because they gained that scout ability. It's a good card.
Yeah, so guys, I want you to think about this. You have 115 points. You can make any list you want, and you're going to be going against a Honey Stewart swarm, 64 tanks. They're all vet. Good luck. I'm so glad that card is gone. I know you're still going to be fielding versions of that list, but I'm so glad that the Nerf bat has come down heavily on it. My favorite Brit card, I had the unfortunate event where I had to go against someone fielding this. And when I first looked at it, I was like, man, 4 points for this. This is way too expensive. But when you play against it, you're like, dang, that should be like a 10-point card. Death and Glory. And it's for the Death and Glory Squadron, but its units in this formation have a last stand of 2 up. But that's, you sit there and go, oh, okay, well, at some point they're going to roll a 1. That entire game, I think we went like 8 or 9 turns. I never saw a 1 get rolled. And I was playing my armored cars and my L6 40 Swarm, and my only real AT are Martyrs. The next highest AT I have is my captured KV with an AT9. And once the Martyrs are knocked out, I can't really touch the Valentines too well. I can't touch Churchills. And, the Valentine's Crusaders, it's waiting for the one to finally be rolled to have that last one run was just not happening. It is a really, really good card. It was a really well-played list by Bill White, and that is my absolutely favorite Brit card. Changing gears a bit, let's go to the Italians. Austin, I don't know about you. The Italians had really quite a bit of cards that I like. I wish I could really take some of these Italian cards with my German formation to go with the Semivantes they bring, but the card Tactical Brilliance, and what this does is a Semivante unit. This unit is elite and gains Scout, and with it being Scout, teams can remain on the ground while moving. That, to me, makes the Semivante so much more deadly. It's only 2 points. I really, really, really like that card, and it's unfortunate that I can't take the Italian cards with my German list.
Yeah, that's an interesting card, for 2 points, making a unit that's already pretty up there. Some people might argue that the Semivante is, not high enough AT to really do anything major, but it's a high enough AT with that heat ammunition that it's something you got to worry about, and it's already hard to hit on a 4+. And if you make it a Scout, and now it's gone to ground while it's moving, now you can reposition it, and I can't touch you while you reposition. That's a good choice. For Italians, I unfortunately do not have any Italians or Italian cards, so I'm going to go with my second favorite British card, and that is Cavalry Commander. Cavalry Commander is a 1 point per platoon card, and it allows you to both shoot and assault after a follow me order. Normally you can just assault after follow me, but when you follow me and assault, you're left with that challenge of, if I don't pin with another unit, I'm now charging maybe an anti-tank gun unit, and with my tanks now they're getting their full rate of fire, or my infantry are going in against machine guns that are not pinned down. So Cavalry Commander with your tanks, it's such a great way for a very mobile force to get in, get their assaults, but at the same time hose an infantry platoon in front of them to get those man-packed gun teams squashed, to pin down that 37 Pack 37 platoon or something like that. And for 1 point per platoon, that's great. So now you're looking at your 10-inch tactical, because you can't assault if you go more than 10 inches. Move your 10-inch tactical on top of a possible spearhead move at the very beginning of the game, followed by your follow me for 4 inches, and then a 4-inch assault. You're looking at an 18-inch threat radius, 10 plus 4 is 14, plus 4 is 18, plus at minimum spearhead of 4 inches is 22. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I can math. So 22-inch threat radius, that's turn 1 assaults, and you get to machine gun your enemies. So for 1 point, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, and that 22 inches, that can put you out of range of, quite a bit of firepower. So, you could roll up from a distance away, be somewhat safe potentially, and then just move in for that assault. And it's like you said, you've won a couple of games doing that at turn 2.
Yep.
That's devastating. I mean, if you lose a game at turn 2, and we've seen it happen, your opponent is not only devastated on a table, I mean, just emotionally is devastated. I mean, you have to feel bad for them that you've just pulled this off.
it's an interesting feeling, and it really depends on who you're playing. I beat James Best Jr. in a game one time at a tournament, sitting down here in Atlantis, running my infantry-only Romanians, and I assaulted him turn 1, and pushed him off the objective. He was unable to get reserves, and I won basically on turn 1. It was technically turn 2, but the game was over after that first assault.
Yeah. Yeah, here's what it is. So what country are we going to move on next? We have Germans, Soviets, and Americans.
We could always do Germans next, I suppose.
All right. Well, for the Germans, I think in my opinion, the best command card is from Iron Cross, and it's the Captured KV. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that because a lot of people are going to say, well, it's not very historical. Yeah, it may not be historical, but it's not really a historical game anymore. Going from version 3 to version 4, and even version 3 really wasn't that historical to some point. But the Captured KV, a Tiger is 29 points. Front armor 9, side 8, top of 2. Well, that's the same thing the KV's at. I can field it for 10 points. Granted, I can hit on 3s, but I don't care. I'm a front armor 9. As an AT-9, rate of fire 2, but it can't hold objectives. It can't charge into contact, but you can certainly have people charge into contact with it and use the machine guns and try to take some swings at them that way. But I really find that when I field the KV, if someone hasn't seen it before, they're throwing everything they have at it, while all my other things can put work in. I feel like that's a great card for Germans to have.
It's an interesting card, and you bring up a really interesting point about playing on the table, and your difference between I hate to use the term, but an experienced player versus a newbie. I remember when I went to my first tournament, and I played against a list with a King Tiger, and I had the King fear instilled in me, and I spent the entire game trying to figure out how I could kill the King Tiger, what I could do to stop the King Tiger. And while I was busy doing that, my opponent was able to take his Grenadier platoon, his, Pumas, and just pick me apart piecemeal, because I wasn't dealing with what is probably the more important part of his list, while I was focused on that heavy armor. And what that KV does is it is a focal point, just like the Tiger tank is, just like an IS-2, just like the Churchill. It's a focal point that, yes, you have to deal with it, but there's smart ways to deal with it. And if I can make my opponent go after a tank that's not going to do anything, then you're saving your armored cars to go and do what they need to do, so those pesky 6-pounders aren't going to shoot at your armored cars. They're going to try to get those side shots on your KV.
Right.
So, going for me, I really do like the Brandenburger cards. I think they add a level of complexity to the Germans that a lot of other nations don't have at the moment. Other than that, I really think that German command cards are a little overpriced in general, which is sad, because Germans are already overpriced, and now you have to add on extra points to your already expensive units. So for me, honestly, my favorite command card for the Germans is no command cards. It's just another point sink. Overall, command cards take up points that take away from units. And for Brits playing, spam light tanks, Americans are already pretty cheap. Russians are pretty cheap. Italians are on the less expensive side. But Germans, if you're taking a Tiger, you're already paying 29 points for it, and you want to make that Tiger rate of fire 3, you just added 8 points onto your Tiger. Now, what could you do with 8 points? You can do a lot with 8 points, even for Germans. So, my favorite command card for the Germans, if not the Brandenburger stuff, which is, I think it's neat that they added those in, the German intelligence cards into the game. But for me, I'm going to have to go with, I don't think that I would bring a German command card unless it's like a formation card.
Yeah. In which if we weren't talking about the formation cards, but if we were, the armored car formation card would be the best card you could take for the Germans.
It's almost one of those required units, like the Martyr is for the Germans. Like the armored car formation gives you the numbers and the flexibility that the Germans lack in every other formation.
Agreed. Well, let's move along to the Soviets.
Oh, let me get
What's
my
your
red
favorite
banner
main
out.
card?
Okay.
All right, well, while you're grabbing that, I'll talk about my favorite one. And I hate to say it, I don't have the name of the card in front of me. Maybe you will have it. I believe it's called Straight from the Factory.
Oh, yes. It's fresh from the factory, and I do have it right in front of me because it's one of the cards I want to talk about.
All right, well, since you have it in front of you, I'll let you take the lead.
All right, so Fresh from the Factory is the single most expensive command card I think I know of. It is 9 points. It is a Soviet force card, which reads, at the beginning of each turn, roll a dice. On a score of 5+, one T-34 operating as an independent team arrives from reserves. Roll another dice to see where the tank arrives. 1 to 2 from the left, 3 to 4 from the back edge, and 5 or 6 from the right. For 9 points, every turn you roll a dice at the beginning of your turn, and on a 5 or a 6, you get a free tank. And I say free, you pay 9 points for it. But for T-34s, I believe they work out to about 5 points a tank.
Yeah.
In a 6-turn game, you're rolling a dice, and you should be getting 1 to 2 tanks from this card. Now, an interesting play of this card is to field a very cheap Russian infantry formation and then take multiples of this card. Because
Does it say limited?
It's not a limited card.
Oh, no.
So if my understanding of the force mechanic is correct, this card affects your entire force. However, it's not a formation card, so you are not limited to the amount of this card you can take, because it does not have the limited cognitor on it. So, for 30 or 40 points, you can roll 4 dice, and on a 5 or a 6...
every turn.
You can get a T-34. So... Maybe we can put something on the forum. Maybe Phil can fill this in for us. But even if you can just take 1, you're dropping a dice every turn to get a free tank. That is something you got to worry about.
I really feel like now we have to try this. We have to take a list where we have 4 of these cards in it. That's 36 points. And we're rolling 4 dice every time and see if we're getting our points back. And just to see how crazy the game is, because it's an independent team, it's not going to count against victory points. You can just rush these T-34s recklessly at objectives.
I've done an evil thing, Ed.
Oh, no.
I did a test game with this exact strategy at 100 points.
Okay.
For 60 points, the Soviets can bring quite a bit of stuff. And then I bought 4 of these cards, and I rolled 4 dice every turn. And at the end of the game, I had about 15 dead T-34s on the field and 4 or 5 other living T-34s. So I wasn't rolling phenomenal. I was usually getting 1. There was one turn that I rolled all 4 5s or 6s, and I got 4 T-34s on the right flank, and I completely rolled up a German grenadier platoon with machine gun fire. But it seems like it pays off. I mean, it's a 1 in 3 chance of getting a T-34 effectively.
Yeah, in a 6-turn game, you're going to at least get your points back, mathematically.
Yes. And what makes this neat, though, is because they're independent teams, I want to shoot at your T-34. Well, if it was a platoon of T-34s, I could just drop my M10s, all 8 dice, into there. My mortars, all 8 dice. But because it's an independent team, if I want to kill them, I've got to shoot over here, I've got to shoot over here, I've got to shoot over here. So now you're able to outmaneuver your enemy, possibly, because of ranges of where these T-34s come in. T-34s aren't a slow tank anyway. So it's an interesting card.
Yeah. And so that was my favorite. What was your favorite?
I love, because I want to see this happen, blocking detachment. Or as I like to call it, Order 66.
Mm-hmm.
Blocking detachment is a free card. Mind you, I say free. I want to sell this to Soviet players. Soviet players, if you're out there listening, I want you to run this in your battalions, and I want you to tell me how it goes. Blocking detachment goes on your Maxim MG companies, your HMG companies, and your duty to the motherland. If an infantry unit fails a motivation test, this unit, your HMG unit, immediately shoots the failing infantry. If it can. So if you're in range and you have line of sight, you automatically fire on your own guys. You also automatically pass your firepower test. So your infantry is in a building, you think, it's okay, it's a 6-up firepower. You automatically pass firepower tests. Once the shooting has been resolved, roll the dice and add that number to the number of hits scored. If the number is 10 or more, the unit automatically rallies from being pinned down and passes the motivation test. So for example, you're in an assault, you fail to come back in the assault. If your HMGs are in range and have line of sight on an infantry stand in that platoon that's assaulting, you must shoot them, killing them. But they automatically pass that to come back, that motivation test. So
I really hope to see this play out someday. It just sounds just too funny. It sounds too cool.
I'm glad that they put it in, because it was a thing. Order 227, which is the actual order that Stalin put out. It's just, I think it's a hilarious card.
Oh yeah, it reminds me. There's one of the American cards. If you roll a dice a certain way, your opponent can actually take the template and move it onto you or something like that. I think for the airplane or something like that. I can't remember which card it was.
I don't recall offhand. My favorite American card. There really is only one great American card out there.
Yeah, and we both agree on the same American card.
It's going to be Regulars, by God. And by God, it's a great card.
Yeah, I fully agree. And make your guys harder to hit. It's always a plus side.
Not only that, so the one thing, so not only harder to hit, but the one thing that Americans really suck at, they have the best anti-tank unit in the game, which is the bazooka. And they can field so many of them, but the bazooka is the worst anti-tank unit in assault. You're hitting on 6s normally, which is ridiculous. What that Regulars, by God, will do is bring that down to now you're hitting, I believe it brings it down to hit on 5s, because it gives you a skill 4, and then bazookas are a small team, so it goes to 5. So 5s instead of 6s. That's a huge bonus and absolutely worth the points. Not only to make your ARPs vet, your mortars vet, but to give your bazookas an actual chance of doing mass carnage in an assault. Absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. And now we got all the nations wrapped up, let's briefly talk about some of the command cards we think are the worst in the game. I'm going to go ahead and lead off. Last week we talked about Lend-Lease versus Red Steel. And one of the command cards that the Russians can take is the ability to field captured Panzer IIIs at the same cost as the Germans field them. So 5 points for the Panzer III shorts. But their stats are absolutely trash. Right? And the benefit that the Germans have fielding them is they're hit on 4s, they can blitz and then shoot scoot out of the way. The Russians don't get any of that. They're really overpriced for the Russians to take. I don't know why any Russian player would take captured Panzer IIIs when they could just save the points and get T-34s.
Is it the same price? Because I'm looking at the card. It says instead of a T-34, you can take a tank for 5 points per tank.
Yeah, so a Panzer III short is worth 5 points for the Germans.
Oh, okay. Well, that solves that issue right there.
Yeah, so they're paying the same price, and then the stats are trash. They really are.
Yeah, no, I can.
For what you get. I mean, for Germans, I think 5 points for that tank is too expensive. And now you're going to make the stats even worse and say, hey, 5 points for the Russians.
Well, you're paying for the flexibility, I guess.
Yeah, I'd rather pay for Lee's.
Wouldn't anyone. I'm going to say, for me, there's a lot of useless cards out there, but I think the most useless for every nation except the Soviets is for the points. The ability to move your templates, your ranged in markers, before the game. It's a 1 point card, or 2 points, 2 point cards that allow you to move your ranged in markers. Now, for the Soviets, that's huge, because now you've seen where they're at, and Soviets just can't range in. It's just impossible for them to do. So being able to move those templates to where they actually matter, that's a good thing for them. But for everyone else, you're ranging in on a pretty decent roll, 4+, possibly even 3+. The spending points for a one-time use of moving a template weapon that I'm just going to move my guys out from under the template weapon, and now I've effectively made your 100-point list a 98-point list.
Right.
I think it's kind of a waste of points.
And we talked about another one earlier, which was the adding an additional rate of fire to the Tiger for 8 points.
Oof.
Oh, dear God. I'll just take 2 martyrs instead.
2 martyrs for 36 points. You can take a whole lot more than that.
Well, if I'm feeling the Tiger and if I say I got 8 points left over, I'm going to take the command card. I'm going to take 2 martyrs instead. But I haven't really been seen where the Tiger really works out being fielded in the mid-war. And I've tried. It's just unless you're going against Soviet T-34s and KVs, I just don't think it's worth it.
It's a rough tank. But
yeah.
With that, I think that's going to wrap up the command card discussion.
Agreed.
Moving, though, to my meat and potatoes for this one, Mr. Pete Zerfy asked us a question a few weeks ago about how he can get his infantry to successfully assault a German unit of Panzer Grenadiers that are backed up by their half-tracks.
And HMGs, I believe.
And HMGs. Basically, how do I assault a unit that's going to drop 50-plus dice on me when I run in there with my infantry?
Steal your opponent's dice? Is that right?
Well, unfortunately in the rules, it's against the rules to steal.
I haven't seen it in the rulebook. I have not seen that in the rulebook.
That's true. Maybe Phil will have to put that in lessons from the front. You can't steal your opponent's dice.
Right.
As I was looking at this problem set, it's rough. The example given by Mr. Zerfy really paints a bleak picture. Because you have to assume that those Germans are in some kind of concealing terrain, so shooting them is going to be difficult. But on the flip side of that, assaulting them could also be easier because of that concealing terrain. So I find when I'm assaulting a unit, I never go in from the front. Always try to get your infantry assaults to come in from a table edge. Usually these Panzer Grenadiers are going to be defending an objective. They're really good at doing that. So I try to come in from a table edge. If they're on the left side, I try to come in from as far on the left corner as I can. That eliminates units further on the left of the line being able to affect my charge. So my assault radius bubble for defensive fire is shortened. So when you're maneuvering to get into the objective, come down and assault from a flank. This will reduce the defensive fire that you're going to take. Secondly, when you're list building and you know that this is an option that people are going to bring, and in mid-war, now that they've released the Panzer Grenadiers with the half-tracks, we have to assume that people are going to be bringing this. You absolutely need a quick-moving, medium AT unit. Honey Stewarts, Crusaders, L640s, Stewarts for the Americans. Every country's got them. Some armored cars for the Germans, or Italian tanks for the Germans. Everyone's got it. You need to have a platoon of these guys so that you can take out one or two of the half-tracks. Because I've tried this every which way to Tuesday, and if you cannot kill 1 to 2 of the half-tracks, it's just too much unmitigatable damage for you to take. Even if you smoke them, you can't pin them. You can bail them out possibly, but if you don't bail or pin them, or bail or kill them, they're going to be shooting. And they're going to be shooting at their full rate of fire. So a unit of quick-moving AT to pick off 1 or 2 of them, a template weapon for that first turn or 2 that your infantry are working their way up, get a template weapon on there, soften them up. What the template weapon is going to do is it's going to hopefully pin down the infantry so that you don't have to worry about direct fire doing that. Because a smart German player is going to go to ground, and he's not going to shoot you, and he's just going to sit there and he's going to let you walk right up to him, and then he's going to hose you in defensive fire because he knows that he's got the numbers to throw you back. So he's not going to waste those troops shooting at you from across the field.
Right. What about go ahead and continue.
I'm sorry. You go.
I was thinking. Really, it all depends on how the platoons are lined up, how the HMGs are lined up, how the half-tracks are lined up. And you mentioned concealing terrain. I'm thinking even if they're in the open, you could use smoke you can only see 6 inches past smoke. You may be able to smoke those half tracks and those HMGs out of sight, where they can't see at all.
No, you're absolutely on the right train of thought. But smoke is a double-edged sword. Because, yes, you put that smoke to where they can't see you. Well, first of all, usually half tracks are not going to be magically 6 inches behind the front line. But even if they aren't, with the smoke being there, the smoke is also going to affect your ability to kill them. So remember, in the assault, even after you get in, now these half tracks can come back in the assault. So if they're within that 4-inch bubble, now these half tracks are able to hit you as well. So not only do you have the infantry, but now you have 4 more half tracks that, if they have infantry in them, can now take a swing at you.
Right.
So it's just something to bear in mind when you actually get into the attack. Is there's a chance these vehicles are not going to break off as normal transports because they have that mounted assault role. Like we said at the beginning, it's a hard challenge to face. It's doable. I assault Panzer Grenadiers all the time. It's something you're going to have to do. But like I said, if you can take the three points, assault from the side, never assault from the front. That's what they want you to do. Kill 1 or 2 of the half tracks on the way in, or bail them, and then, as Ed said, try to put that smoke down to where you're limiting the fire. And I guess my last tip is don't be afraid of the 6+ firepower. One of the best ways to kill Germans is to drop a whole bunch of dice on them. So if you are running up, don't be afraid, they're 7s to hit. Roll your dice. Drop as many dice as you can on them, because you'll eventually roll the 6s, and they'll eventually roll the 1s and 2s, and you will roll the 6s. I'm reminded of a game I played against James Best Sr., and I rolled up on him. He had 4 88s. Not 88s, 4 HMGs behind his grenadiers. And I rolled up with a platoon of 10 infantry stands, rifle machine guns. Took 10 shots, hit him 6 times. He failed 4 infantry saves, and I've made 4 firepower tests. So the chance is always there that you can kill 1 or 2 of these weapons. And I say chance, I find, and maybe I'm just really lucky, but I find it happens more often than not. If you take the chances, the dice will reward you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said it when version 4 first came out, and I tell people it all the time. It's a dice game. The more dice that I roll, even if I got to hit you on 6s, the more dice I roll, the better chances I am of doing it. A 6 is going to hit conscript, it's going to hit train, it's going to hit vet. So the more chances I get to roll 6s, the better off I am.
Which is true, and I think that's part of the reason we see tank swarms and stuff like that is you get more of those dice. But you can create lists that drop a lot of dice by running infantry. You just have to bring to bear on one single platoon. Bring 4 or 5 platoons that are all shooting at the same unit. I do believe in one of the No Dice No Glory podcast earlier, Chris Jackson brought it up for Team Yankee. He was talking about Team Yankee, but don't worry about this platoon. Everything shoot at this one platoon, because if you remove that platoon, now it can no longer affect you.
Yep.
So, concentrated firepower on those grenadiers against their half tracks, against their HMG support, and then a smart assault is going to pay dividends. Now, when I say smart assault, this is an entirely different idea, an entirely different approach you can do. You're coming up on your Panzer Grenadiers, and there is some form of terrain that blocks line of sight, be it a house, woods that are 6 inches that they can't see through, or some other rock formation, or something like that. A friendly tank team, something that blocks line of sight. Some of the best assaults that I have ever gotten off in the game were made with 1 to 2 infantry teams. sometimes the best thing you can do is assault with 1 or 2 infantry teams to minimize the defensive fire that's going to come down on you to 4, 5, 6, 8 shots, something like that. Needing 4s or 5s to hit, depending on whatever your modifiers that you can improvise on. You get in there, you make them come at you. You maybe kill 1 or 2 guys, maybe, but you're not looking to kill. What you're hoping to do with these 1 or 2 guys, and I think we've mentioned this before, is just to make them fail to counter assault. And now those dug-in Panzer Grenadiers with their half tracks have to run away 6 inches, and now a very powerful unit who is dug in, who is impossible to kill and impossible to assault, is now standing in the open, ready for you to come in there with Stuarts to come and machine gun them, your infantry to sit there and machine gun them, your HMGs from across the field to machine gun them. Those mortars that have now been trying to range in, now they can range in real easy, and it's infantry in the open. So sometimes the best way to get rid of these units is to force them away from where they want to be.
Yeah, I fully agree. If you're able to, as you said, shift them and move them, you can put them in a better position for the next turn.
And it's just neat that you can do that with so limited resources. Actually, at last year's Masters, I was able, with 2 infantry teams, I assaulted a platoon of 5 Matilda 2s. Not Matilda 2s, Valentines, sorry. 5 Valentines. 2 infantry teams, tank assault 2, are not going to do anything to a Valentine in early war. Not going to do anything. However, I was able to capture the entire platoon because they were unable to break off 6 inches. That's neither here nor there, but the fact that I was able to force them back, and this really works against non-Germans, people that have a higher counter assault, your conscript troops, your confident troops. These guys may or may not come back in an assault. So it's an interesting tactic to use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that about wraps up our conversation for command cards and how to get around Panzer Grenadiers or unassailable positions. And hopefully our tactics and advice helps you in that next really hard assault you have to get off. If it doesn't, let us know some things we may have missed and we can readdress. If it does, let us know in comments on the No Dice No Glory forums so that we can revel in your victories. But other than that, I do believe there are some events coming up, and particularly this weekend on the 20th. I am looking forward to your TAPS event, Ed. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We got the TAPS event coming up October 20th. It's going to be a really fun event. I'm sure we're going to see some of the command cards that we discussed earlier. The first 2 rounds, 45 points. It's low points, yes. You're not going to get everything you want. And if we're still playing on the 6x4 table, there should be a lot of maneuvering around. There should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, round 3, the mission's Annihilation, 75 points. From the round 2 to round 3, you can change nation, change army. 75 points. You're fielding only fully tracked tank teams. Mission Annihilation. I expect it to just be a full-on tank duel to the death.
All right, Ed. I'll tell you if you tell me. What are you going to bring for those tank tests?
We talking about the 75 points?
75 points.
So, you think at mid-war, there's not much that's going to kill a Tiger. So a lot of people are probably thinking, hey, let me run a bunch of cheap Panzer IIIs. I can field 1 Tiger at 29 points. And just, what's going to kill me? Well, I'll tell you what's going to kill you. Bring in 8 M10s. If you think 1 Tiger is going to wreak havoc, when I drop 8 M10s, it is going to be havoc. Now, if someone brings a big swarm list, then I may not have enough shots to go around. I mean, what are you bringing?
Well, I have bad news for you, Ed.
Here we go.
I'm going to bring a Honey Stuart formation, my good old Honeys. I'm going to back them up in support with 3 M10s. I find 3 is the magic number. I don't know what I would do against 8. That's a lot. That's basically 8 dead tanks a turn for me. Ugh. But
I hope so.
And then I'm gonna squeeze in it if I can possibly squeeze in it. It's gonna be a small Crusader formation. So I'm bringing in light guns, medium guns, and heavy guns, and hoping that I run up against the Soviet list. That's what I'm really hoping to go up against.
So what are you scared to go against? What kind of list are you scared to see at 75 points, all tank teams fully tracked?
Well, I am scared to go against whoever declares a grudge match against me, because I'm guessing that they are crafting a list to beat me. But as far as lists go, honestly, I think the thing I'm most scared about is going to be a German armored car, not armored car, but a German list with martyrs backed up by Italian tanks. Italian tanks just don't run away, and AT6 with heat is just as good as my AT7, so it turns into a slap fest of who can kill the most first. So I think that's going to be what I'm going to fear the most.
I think for me, I think we're thinking along the same tracks. I'm thinking of someone who's going to spend, 50 points, maybe 45 points on Panzer IIIs, not fielding a Tiger, but going for a platoon of martyrs and then a platoon of Dianas.
Oof.
You're talking 7 high AT tanks. I mean, you're just going to blitz, shoot, and then shoot and scoot out of the way, and I'll never get eyes on you. And then I still got to deal with these Panzer IIIs that are going to be dancing around. I think that may be too much for 8 M10s, and it's probably going to be about 5 Stuarts to deal with. It's a reroll tournament for charity, so maybe if things get really hairy, I'll start burning off some rerolls. You're speaking of grudge match. I'm calling you out. I don't think I've ever beaten you in flames. I'm going to have to call you out and give it another shot. But we may meet round 1, round 2, and that a thrashing in round 1 and 2 from you may persuade me not to call a grudge against you.
We'll see how things go.
Absolutely. Well, we also got Fallen coming up, and we plan on the next podcast speaking heavily on the Fallen events that are coming in. The signups. I did the math on it, right? I pulled it up. There's 26 people, and that's not including some people that I know are going that haven't sent the sign up. That's a lot. I mean, compared to what we've seen.
No, it's definitely. I think we spoke earlier this year about, version 4 definitely had its slack off, but going from our trial by fire tournament where we saw a return of a non-nationals tournament to more than 18 players. To now, Fallen, which I think is probably the smallest of the 3 that HMGS puts on. It's nice to see these numbers coming back, because what's better than playing Flames of War? Playing Flames of War with good friends. So
yeah,
it's good to see these numbers coming back.
Yeah, and I expect that number to go higher, because, like I said, there's 26 people, but that are signed up. Well, you're not signed up on it, but I know you're going.
I do plan on coming. So
Kurt Reese isn't shown on my sign-up list. I know he's going.
Yeah. Well.
And Matt Varnish. So you count those guys, you're at 29. And then you got 7 spots left. It's a little easier to tell people, hey, you want good points for the tournament season? I got 29 people signed up. Come out and join us. It's going to be a blast. It really is. And I'm doing the Team Yankee before the day before. I'm not a Team Yankee guy, but Mitch, I cannot stress this enough. Mitch puts on a good, fun event. It's going to be a blast.
It is a blast. Last Cold Wars was my first time ever playing Team Yankee. Games 1, 2, and 3 were my first, second, and third game at Team Yankee. It's a fun game. It plays quick. Just imagine late war Flames, and you'll do okay.
Yeah. Oh, my first time ever playing Team Yankee was the first Team Yankee Nationals. Mitch puts an army in my hands and says, "You're playing."
Here's some dice.
Well, yeah, I played, and it was fun. Team Yankee's not really my thing, but I do enjoy playing it once I start playing it.
I like it. Well, those are our events that are coming up, guys, and those are our questions for today. I think next week we're going to try to get into how our lists did at the tournament, how we would have changed them, as well as picking up another 1 or 2 of your questions off the internet. So, as always, let us know what you have to say and what you're thinking and what you're seeing, and we'll definitely give it a chit-chat.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at NoDiceNoGlory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.